Hello, Pirates. Today's topic is the water cycle. And I know you guys have learned about the water cycle many times before. So today's just a quick review of the water cycle. And then you want to go back and review just about everything you've learned about water this year as we are getting close to our end of course exam, just a few weeks away. So with the water cycle, it is one of Earth's biogeochemical cycles. So sometimes you'll see this term biogeochemical cycle. And this means that it's a life, earth cycle, and a chemical is moving through the cycle, and that chemical is the water molecules itself. With the water cycle, we are looking at how the water is cycling through the ecosystem. And if you guys remember, the ecosystem consists of both the biotic and the abiotic components of the ecosystem. So the living and the non-living components. So we have an ecosystem. And another key word here is sometimes they refer to the water cycle as the hydrologic cycle. So hydro for water. So sometimes they call it the hydrologic cycle, and that just is a fancy way of saying the water cycle. So what we're going to talk about is just review how water moves through the biotic and abiotic components of an ecosystem. So we're going to start off here with a large body of water. It could be an ocean, it could be a lake, a stream, or a puddle. And over here, I'm just going to give us some land, give us a nice tree, because the water is going to need to move into some living things. And with our tree, I'm just going to put it here so it's on a landmass. We'll give it some roots, and we'll put it up on the side of a hill or a mountain over here. All right, so following the water through the water cycle, water is going to be in our large body of waters, and when it moves from the large body of water into the atmosphere, this process that moves the water from a liquid to a gas is called evaporation. The water in the atmosphere condenses and cools at higher altitudes around little dust particles, and so then we'll get water vapor or a cloud. And when it cools and condenses, we call this condensation. So it's condensing and forming a cloud. The water then can fall from the sky as rain or snow or sleet, and this rainfall would be called precipitation. So you guys can see the whole water cycle has evaporation, condensation, precipitation. All right. The water can get soaked up into the ground. So here we'll have our water going into the ground. So water falls on the ground. It's going to soak into the earth. When it soaks into the earth, this process is called percolation. So it percolates into the earth, and eventually it collects into underground rivers and streams underneath the land. And down there, that is the groundwater. So we've got groundwater that eventually makes its way out to the oceans or lakes. All right. When it rains, not all of the rain makes its way down into the soil. Some of it is going to run off the surface water. So we also sometimes have runoff. And when we have water runoff, it's going to collect everything in its path. So whatever is on the land, the soil, the fertilizers, trash, it all gets back into our waterways. And some water is going to make its way into plants. So it's going to be absorbed through the roots, do you remember the process? Water moving from higher concentrations to lower concentrations through osmosis. And the water is going to make its way up into the leaves through capillary action. And eventually, this water can evaporate from the leaves. And when it evaporates from the leaves back into the atmosphere, it has its own name, and we call it transpiration. Now, transpiration is a word that is like new in the high school science standards compared to middle school. So your middle school teachers may have taught you this already, but it's like the new buzzword. So maybe put a star next to that. Maybe that's what they test on the EOC, but still read the questions critically just in case it is something simple like evaporation. So this is evaporation. So transpiration is the evaporation of water from a leaf. Okay, so it's moving from a leaf to the atmosphere. All right, and ultimately, this is the water cycle. All right, so from a leaf to the atmosphere. With the water cycle, things that you want to understand is you want to understand how we impact it, so how humans impact it, and what are some solutions to the problems we're having with the water cycle. Most of our human impacts are going to be based around pollution, and the solutions are going to be based around how to reduce those problems. So what you guys want to do is watch the video on the cycle of insanity. You guys want to write down some of those human impacts, and then what are those solutions? And most of those solutions are going to be focused around doing things like reducing the amount of water that we're using, reusing water, recycling water, or recycling in general just for less manufacturing, and then reclaiming water. So always, when in doubt, go with those 4 R's. So reduce, reclaim, recycle, and reuse. Watch the video for human impact, make a list of the many things that we do to impact the water cycle, and then you guys just want to review and prep all topics water. Have a wonderful day. Reach out if you guys have any questions.